There we go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for chatting with me today. Would you mind sharing your name and where you're at?
Okay, so I'm Megan Taylor. I am from Hillcrest, which is in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Great. And is that where you grew up? Are you from there originally?
No, actually, I grew up in the Midlands, which is about an hour away. It's like a farming community.
Okay.
I grew up on a mushroom farm, and then and that was still in KwaZulu-Natal. And then after school, I went and studied in Bloemfontein, the Free State, for a couple of years, and then moved back to KwaZulu-Natal to Hillcrest.
Okay. Nice. Is the town you're in right now, is it one of the larger cities in South Africa? Like,
So it falls under Durban,
okay.
Durban city, which is one of South Africa's biggest cities, but it's more on the outskirts of Durban. It's a yeah, so it's not a city. It's more a town.
Like a smaller town. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. How have things been there with all this COVID stuff going on in the world? What's it been like in your town?
Um, it's been okay. So we got told, I can't remember the dates, but we've been in lockdown 48 days. Initially we were in lockdown and it was very strict. We were only allowed to leave our house if we were going to get groceries or for medical reasons, basically. Um, and even if you went to the grocery store, you couldn't go with your partner or anything. Obviously, you had to wear a mask. That was in the beginning, and that was, I mean, the the president had to call that, so we all everybody really abided and that sort of thing. Um, and then and then I think the biggest frustration in that part was we weren't allowed to exercise. Um, and then they had also stopped the sale of alcohol.
Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so which was a huge thing, and tobacco, so no smoking.
Wow.
Um, I don't smoke or drink, so it wasn't a huge thing for me. The exercise thing was more a problem for me. But I can understand there's a lot of running groups and that sort of thing. And we also, I think a lot of people had to understand that, yeah, in the suburbs, like where we live now, it's fine if we go out for a run and that sort of thing because it's not as crowded. But if you were in the townships and you had to go for a run, it's the population is a lot more dense. Um, but since okay, so that was the start of lockdown. Then we've moved now down to level 4, which is basically some rules and restrictions have become a little bit more easier. Uh, so we're allowed to now leave our house for exercise between 6 and 9 in the morning. Um, we still, the whole nation still has a curfew. I think the curfew is 7. So everybody has to be within, even if you're shopping, within their houses by 7 at night. Um, there's still no sale of alcohol and cigarettes and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of people that do rely on that are battling. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is, sorry.
I was just going to say those two things, the people that use those things, like there's addictive qualities, I think, of like needing that. And I'm sure the people that use those things, like that probably caused a big issue. Was there
Yeah,
protests
so
about that?
a lot of people were obviously very unhappy with it and that sort of thing. But people have somehow, the smokers have somehow been able to source like very cheap versions of cigarettes. I don't know where from because I don't smoke.
Yeah.
And then the drinkers, a lot of people have started like their own home brewing of like, so a very popular one that I've heard a lot of people have done is pineapple beer. We use pineapple and yeast, and I don't really know, but
Mm.
so that's become quite a popular thing. Um, and another thing that we got allowed during level 4 was we could now have home deliveries for food,
Mm.
takeout food in terms of
Oh,
that, because all McDonald's, KFC, all of that was closed down in level 5 when we were on the higher restrictions. And so a lot of like your restaurant businesses and that sort of thing were really stressed out. But now some places are doing home deliveries in level 4. Yeah.
does the town offer any kind of grocery deliveries, or do you have to go into the store?
So you can choose like you can go online and order. Um, and some people have done that. Like we've got Woolworths and who do that in a pick and pay, which you can do that, and Spar actually do that. But your more cheaper stores like Checkers are, which is what um, I think majority of the population will use who have less income. They don't offer that.
Mm.
So yeah, and if you go to the shops, obviously only a limited amount of people allowed within the shops. So sometimes it's a bit frustrating because you go to the shops and then you're queuing for like 45 minutes outside
Mm.
before you can go in.
And
But it's,
yeah,
yeah, it has to
do they
be
have
done.
people standing up like so many feet away from each other in the queue? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all demarcated with like tape on where you can stand and that sort of thing. Um, Obviously, if there's an elderly person standing, they obviously get taken to the front, or a disabled person.
That's
Um,
nice.
yeah, so that's quite nice. And then there's also, I know some of the shops are doing special like shopping hours for nurses and doctors where they could either go in, I think it was 7 to 8 in the morning, uh, where they would only open, you had to be like a registered health worker or that's it, or an emergency worker, I guess you could say, in order to shop in that time. Then the rest of the public would be able to shop
Mm.
in after 8 or whatever.
You said 7 p.m. was kind of the curfew, I think you said. Uh, for
I
people,
think it's 7. I can't remember if it's 7 or 8.
is it like, is there police enforcing that? If you go out after that, they're going to tell people to go home or fine them?
Yeah, so yeah, if you're not a like a worker at the shops or a health worker and you're out at that time, there have been people who have gotten into trouble for being out at that time. Um, we've found that the police are like stopping cars even during the day, wanting to know where you're going, what you're doing, that sort of thing, just to, I guess they're trying to just try and limit people and limit the spread. They're trying to do what they can. So yeah.
Is it like an arrest type thing where they take you to jail, or is it a fine, or is it just a warning?
I think it's a fine,
Okay.
um, but some of the fines, like if you get caught in public without a mask, I mean, some of the fines are quite intense. I mean, it can be up to 10,000 rand here. I'm
Oh,
not
so
sure what the
you
exchange
can't
rate is.
you can't even be outside without a mask.
No, so even when we exercise, we
Yeah,
have to wear a
got
mask.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Seattle, in the U.S., United States, where I'm at, you have kind of a mix. They haven't, at least in the city, and I don't know if any city in the U.S. has done this, but there isn't a requirement for a mask. So when you go out, you can go out for a run, you can go for a walk, you can go for a bicycle ride. Um, about half the people are wearing masks and half them are not. So it's kind of a blend. Um, I don't think it's a bad idea to have everyone wearing a mask, but that's not um, what we've done here. And they're starting to open things up a little bit as well. But similar grocery stores, you have to wear a mask. You know, depending on what grocery store, there's a queue. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think everybody, we've basically been told once you leave the house, whether you're going grocery shopping or if you're exercising, you have to wear a mask. Um, and and everybody kind of just sticks to it. I think we're just also happy that we're able to exercise and that sort of thing. That whether we have to wear a mask, we just kind of do it. because we also understand why we have to wear a mask, but,
Mhm.
to limit the spread. So, yeah.
Have they talked about, I think you said phase four, like the timeline for when they're going to open it up to phase, is it three and then two and then one?
Yeah, so President Cyril Ramaphosa gave us addressed the nation, I think it was 2 nights ago, and where he said that by the end of May, we should start. Some provinces are going to look at going down to level 3. Um, so I think the Western Cape won't go down to 3, but that's just my personal thoughts, as they have the most active cases at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's still no, like, you still can't travel between provinces and that sort of thing. But yeah, they and in from what I can see on the news, level 3 people will be allowed to buy alcohol. Um, but what they're going to do, if yeah, I'm not sure if it's 100% yet. I think they're still drafting it. But if your surname falls under a certain, let's say between A and M,
Mm-hmm.
then on Mondays and Wednesdays you can go and buy alcohol, and you'll be limited to 5 items. And then I think Tuesdays and Thursdays, N to Z or whatever.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Have the grocery stores been supplied, or have you been to the grocery store and certain shelves are empty, or have they been pretty well stocked?
So in the beginning, it was, I think everybody was like, oh my gosh, I think for like just 3 days or so, where, yeah, in the beginning, where it was like, okay, everybody's bought the toilet paper, everybody's bought the hand sanitizer and that sort of thing. But other than that, after that, I think everybody just calmed down a bit.
Yeah.
But also, I realized that South Africa, because we're not as well off of a country, a lot of people still live paycheck to paycheck, so they can't afford to just buy out the supermarkets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Similar, toilet paper, sanitizer, any kind of cleaning wipes. Like, yes, people were buying that up. But you're right. Like, there's people that are very wealthy in the U.S. and there's a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck as well. And to your point, like, not everyone is in a situation to buy up a lot of supplies. So, um, so have you are you been impacted personally? Like, have you been able to do your work, or do you work online?
So I am currently studying education through Varsity, but I also work normally. But I tutor normally, but I haven't been able to tutor, so I haven't been able to earn an income. I'm very fortunate though that my partner is able to carry us. Um, so yeah,
That's,
but Varsity has just gone onto online, which has been good. At least I still got that. Yeah.
are you able to do any tutoring, like on a video call situation like this, or is it something you have to be in person?
So I have offered to the family, but the girls that I help are quite young, and it's more hands-on. So also the thing is that their mom is now at home because she's not working in the office, so she's able to do that with them. But I think, as levels decrease, so I'll be able to then maybe go in once or twice, and then so it'll increase.
Hmm. Has the government helped people in that, like some people that have been impacted, like um, any kind of any kind of help financially to people, or yeah?
So I didn't apply, but you could apply. They did make some funding available. Unfortunately, for a lot of this, there's a lot of queuing involved and that sort of thing, where you would look at queuing almost all day just to fill out a piece of paper. Um, and then yeah, you can apply for like a grant where you get a couple $100 or so. Um, but yeah, as I say, I'm very lucky that my partner is able to continue working. So, I also thought there's no need for me to go and take that money where someone else might be really desperate for it,
Right.
apply for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, there isn't a lot of things in history that impacts everyone. Like there may be natural disaster in different parts and it impacts different people, but like no matter where you are in the world right now, everyone on one level or other, some people more than others, is being impacted, which is, it's a very historical event. This is will be in the history books.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think that this, like, well, I can definitely say for South Africa, this has definitely also brought out like um, a sign of almost like unity. So a lot of people would like be on Facebook or something and say maybe they can't afford to get it because we have to use well, they trying to make us more use cloth masks rather than the single use ones, because obviously it's more waste.
Yes.
And a lot of people have like become so generous and giving. I mean, I personally know one lady that sewed over 1,000 masks just to
Wow.
give up for free. Yeah, and at one point, um, you know, even though we weren't allowed to really leave home, I was driving to the shops, and most of the houses in my neighborhood had like South African flags up or like a rainbow, like somehow painted. And it just kind of showed like even though we're all apart at the moment physically, we actually kind of like stay united. I also know a lot of people who have started up almost not like food drives, but it is kind of a food drive where they've gotten together with people and they know that a certain area is really battling, um, financially and needing help with food, and been making up packages and that sort of thing. It's really, for me, I think that's been the most amazing thing. Like the day that I drove through my neighborhood and I just saw all those. I mean, I also hadn't been out in about 2 weeks, but when I saw all those flags up and the rainbow flag, and I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, we really are all in this together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Um, well, tell me about yourself in that. Like, what if you were able to just do what you want and we were past this situation? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what interests you? What are your like hobbies or passionate about? Like, what do you enjoy spending your time doing?
So I garden a lot, which uh, which is good because at least I can still do that
Yeah.
during lockdown. I do a lot of vegetable gardening, and I'm into self-sustainability. So we've
Mm.
got two chickens that help produce eggs and control pests and that sort of thing. I also enjoy exercising, my daily walks, and painting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. And then I also sometimes help out at an animal rescue.
Specific like cats or dogs or both or other types of animals?
Both,
Okay.
both cats and dogs. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so with regard to gardening, I haven't done much gardening. Is there anything like if I was to start gardening for the first time? I don't have much of a yard where I live currently, but if that changed and I was like, I love the idea of fresh fruits and vegetables that you could grow on your own. Is there anything that you would recommend? You're like, oh, this is a mistake I made when I started growing things, or I learned this along the way that it helps produce better crop. Like any guidance for any for myself?
I think for me, in the beginning, so I started gardening about, I would say about 2 years ago. I didn't really share it on Facebook or anything or Instagram, and then I don't know, like about a year ago, I thought this is so ridiculous. I should start, sharing it, see if there's people who can give me advice and stuff like that. And I think that was one of the biggest greatest things I did. It was so ridiculous. I joined a couple of South African self-sufficient groups and that sort of thing, and everybody was so welcoming. I had people like sending seeds to me and that sort of thing. I remember the day that I got last year, I got my first bit of seeds from one lady. And I mean, they're not rare seeds or anything. But it was just that generosity that came with the gardening community that was so amazing. In terms of gardening, its actual self, I think you can basically garden anywhere. My mom lives in London, central London, and she lives in an apartment, and she's got a little hydroponics system going. I think, yeah, if you're gardening outside in the ground, I think your soil quality is everything. But I think just consulting with different people in different groups, you'll learn so much. I found out through Facebook at the beginning of this year that there's a couple people in my neighborhood that have started gardening on our verges to help the people that are really poor. They can come past, pick some lettuce, pick some squash or whatever to feed their families. Because in South Africa, we do obviously have a lot of poverty as well. So when it is like rubbish day or something, sometimes people will come and try and pick out the bins, basically. So instead of having that, a lot of people are now trying to encourage, well, in our neighborhood, to try and have a verge garden. So rather, instead of trying to pick up food out of the bins, is, well, here's some fresh, produce, help yourself.
Do you need to water it, or does the natural rain that happens, is that enough through?
In summer, we get a fair amount of rain, so I find that I don't water a lot. But winter, you tend to have to. But I kind of see how hardy the plants are, and I don't overwater them. I'm not finicky. I mean, I don't even think. No, I haven't watered mine today. So, and I won't go over the top, because we've also obviously got the like water restrictions in certain parts of South Africa and that sort of thing. So you also don't want to go over the top with that. So, yeah.
And chickens is fascinating to me. There's a house near, like a short walk away from where I live, and they have a couple chickens, and the thought of having fresh eggs sounds wonderful. And I didn't realize this until recently, that if you have eggs that from your own chickens, you don't need to refrigerate them. Is that true?
Yeah, well, you can, but because South Africa tends to get hot, I just tend to rather just refrigerate mine. But yeah, I've only had my two hens for, I think it's over 2 weeks now. Hasn't been very long. So I'm also very new to this. I got an indigenous breed of chicken, just so that they're more hardier in terms of being acclimatized to South Africa. But you won't believe it. The first day you get eggs, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like the best thing ever. But
The taste has to
now,
be better than supermarket, right?
oh yes, oh, it's much better. But even before we had our own chickens, we knew a lot of people, because our town also has farms on the outskirts. So we would go to farmers markets and stuff like that. We would never eat store-bought eggs in any case. But yeah, it's amazing. But I must tell you though, chickens are really smelly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was roam, and I mean they eat parts of my garden and stuff, but because we got quite a bit of land, having only two, they don't totally eat all my food, all my produce, I guess you could say. But like today they were curious, so they came onto our veranda or our patio,
Yeah.
and the next thing I like went outside and they've pooed, and I was just like, oh my gosh, because like my dogs would never do that,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is there much cleanup then? It sounds like they can just go about free and on the land that you have. You don't have them in like a cage or anything like that.
So at night they go into their coop,
Okay.
um, and that I clean once a week. Um, but during the day, they let out quite early in the morning, and they fed and then they let out to go and roam. Because part of the reason we did get them was to help with pest control. So they go and eat all the nunus, but they also do peck at some of my plants. But I've come to terms with that. I kind of know what they go for. And what I'm going to do is when I have my next season, I kind of know what they like, and I'll just plant extra.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
How many eggs do they produce? Is it something that happens weekly or daily? Like I have no idea.
it's daily.
Daily,
It's
that's a
daily.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. When we got the chickens, I consulted a couple people and they said no, you'd have about 5 a week. But in the last 2 weeks, they've each lay an egg every single day.
Oh, wow.
Um,
You have lots of eggs.
yeah. Well, we've given a lot to neighbors and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Because I mean, there's only two of us in the house, so
Yeah.
as much as it's nice to have eggs, we don't have it every single day.
Yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
is it, is that, are they producing eggs on certain times of the year more often, or is the expectation that they would lay one egg a day all year round?
So the expectation so it depends on your breed of chicken. Some go into like different seasons, but the expectation is between 4 and 5 a week.
Okay. Almost
Um,
one a day.
but they throughout the year, but they can have obviously better weeks like they're having at the
Hmm.
moment. We also think that they might currently be having better weeks at the moment because we haven't had any pest control in our area. So they're getting a lot of fiber and nutrients and richness from eating all the bugs and pests at the moment. Um, I don't know whether that's right or not, but we're going to see.
Yeah, wow, that's wonderful. Um, makes me want to market eggs right now. uh,
You know,
uh,
when I first met my partner, I said to him, "I've got some crazy ideas. I'm just letting you know." Because he grew up in the city and I grew up in obviously on a farm.
yeah.
And I said, I'm just letting you know that you could be in for some crazy things. And when I mentioned to him at the beginning of this year, I said, I really want chickens. And he said, okay, well, let's just see how things go and that sort of thing. Um, I don't think he thought that I would actually really get chickens. And then I just come home and I'm like, oh, I got 2 chickens. He's like, I see.
Surprise.
But he loves it too, I guess. Like as I say, every morning you go and you get eggs, and it's
Yeah.
just like, oh gosh, you can't believe it.
Yeah. Are you good with two, or do you think you're going to surprise him with two more?
I think I'm good with 2. I thought in the beginning that I would want more, but I really battle with the mess.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm finding like every day I'm cleaning like the veranda like almost twice a day because I'm just really battling that they can't control themselves until they're on the grass
Yeah.
like a dog.
Yeah.
So, but now our roles have kind of reversed because now my partner says, no, maybe we'll get some more. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So maybe he'll be the one surprising me with 2 more.
Yeah. Do you have any dogs or cats as well?
We got 3 dogs.
Okay.
Um,
How do they get
oh,
along with the hens?
in the beginning, they were very curious, and the youngest one, she kind of like wanted to stalk them a bit, but with a bit of training and that sort of thing, we've allowed them to sniff them, we've allowed them to sit outside freely with them, and I think not running around and screaming. They've kind of just been like, oh, okay. But we also, you see, the thing is, my partner and I foster animals. quite regularly. So I think they're kind of just like, oh, mom's brought home another thing, you know?
Yeah.
So they've been very good, I must say.
Yeah. Is there anything, I've never been to South Africa. Um, is there anything that you would say, like the world when on the outside thinks of South Africa as a certain way or something about them, but when you are really native to South Africa and live it, the truth is actually something different? Like, I don't know what that thing may be, but like anything that you think that there may be a misconception of, like, this is what people outside of South Africa may think of South Africa, but the truth may be like this is something they may not realize that is actually a true thing about South Africa. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. So I think probably, South Africa is known for its crime. Um, and obviously you have to be vigilant when you are out, but at the same sense, it's not as bad as it's portrayed in the media. I must say, you know, I mean, I don't want to say this and then just ask if it happens, but I've never ever been robbed or hijacked or anything like that. And I mean, I'm turning 27 this year. Um, so everybody's like, talks about how unsafe it is, but I think when you're a South African person, you do have like your guard apps when you go out into certain areas and that sort of thing. But I think also when you get to know the people and that sort of thing, you also realize it's not as bad as it's portrayed.
Mm. Do you think it's
Um,
a bit better when you get outside of the cities into more of the countryside? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say is when you're in the cities, I think you're more on guard and you're sort of like, oh my gosh. Well, not oh my gosh, but yeah,
You're
cities are
alert.
obviously,
You're alert,
yeah,
right?
cities
Yeah.
are obviously more where it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's the other I think misconception is a lot of people think we have wild animals like lions just roaming around. I mean, I have a friend she got married I think about a year ago to a British guy, and when she moved over there, it was a question she was asked regularly: is did we just pass lions? Um, and I mean, we do have wildlife. So even though I live in the suburbs, we still do have like back walking through, and we've got some dassie, which are like, I don't know if you have dassies over there, but they're like, I want to say like a bunny with no ears,
Okay.
but like little ears. Um, and we have, we have monkeys. Monkeys is a huge problem over here. Um,
Wild
you
monkeys?
can, pardon? Yeah,
Wild
vervet
monkeys?
monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild vervet monkeys. They come through our homes and they will just, if luckily we got dogs, but if you don't have dogs or something that chases them, they normally somehow get into your house and they will eat a lot of things.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah,
Is that
yeah,
an issue in the country and the city?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I think city center maybe not, but I know people that live in Durban who still battle with that. And if you go onto like the Durban beachfronts, you'll still see the vervet monkey. Um, and the thing is like it's really hard because we are overtaking their land. So you do, as much as you get irritated with them, you do also realize why they're doing it.
Yeah. You talked about crime. For anyone that may visit South Africa, do you have any guidance or tips on, to stay alert, to reduce the odds that you have any kind of incident? You say like, I would recommend this, like whatever that may be, like not hold your wallet in your hand, or like, that's a bad example, but like anything that you think would be like, you will reduce your risk of having an issue if you do these things.
So I think like probably your best thing would become friends with a South African. Um, from the beginning, you will be so surprised. I mean, you put up the status wanting to speak to someone from the world, and obviously I said, yeah, I'm in. And I think if more South Africans saw that, be so keen. We're a very helpful nation, so if you could find, if you could find someone before you came over and just said, I'm coming to South Africa, I'd love to meet someone who's willing to just give me not even a tour, just show me the ins and outs or whatever. And I think that would be amazing because every area is different. I do have to say, maybe things that you're not used to. We lock our houses and our cars and all that once we leave. I can't seem to think of it because it's an everyday thing here for us. But I mean, yeah, there's just small things like you don't have your wallet out often. Yeah, you won't just show that you have money.
Is
And
there
if you
theft
go,
from stores? Like, do you have police officers guarding doors at stores for theft protection?
so we have security guards,
Yeah.
not police officers. We have security guards at stores, but then your more like smaller stores maybe won't, but like your supermarkets and that sort of thing have all of that. But most stores will have like CCTV cameras, and that sort of thing. I think just for me, it's like being alert. Don't just get into any taxi or car. I had a friend who came with he was from Sweden, and we were in Bloemfontein, and he was at a club one night and he got really really drunk, and he just went up to a car on the road and said, "Oh, are you a taxi?" And the guy said, "Oh, yes." um whereas and then he got in. The taxi driver drove him, I think, 2 blocks down, and ended up just taking everything, his wallet, his phone, everything. So for me, it's like, if you are going to go clubbing, before you go out, either make sure that you know how to order an Uber, or Uber does cover your area, or otherwise ask a local of a good like a reputable taxi number, because I think that's the biggest thing is, you find that the foreigners come. Sorry, the dogs are just
No
the
worries.
foreigners come, and they get so excited because booze tend to be quite cheap here and that sort of thing. But then they don't realize that when they drink, all their awareness and that sort of goes. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's definitely good advice. One last question I had for you is, again, on the topic of visiting, is there any dish, like any particular meal that like you would say South Africa is known for, or you love in particular, where like if you come here, you will find this on a lot of menus, and you should definitely order this?
So I think we got a couple dishes that I would say are really good. I think one of the most well-known ones is milk tart, or melk tart, which is Afrikaans. It's like a tart. It's a sweet tart. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's really good. It's got like almost like a cinnamony sugar kind of taste, like a kind of like a cinnamon sugar pancake, but it doesn't look like a cinnamon sugar pancake. The thing is with South African cuisine is you would have to go to your more smaller restaurants, not your franchises, obviously, to get it. Pap, Milipap is also a very common cuisine here. So you'll have Milipap and sauce, or you'll have boerewors, Milipap and sauce. Milipap, do you know Milipap?
No.
So it's made from corn.
Okay.
It's like yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but it's basically dried corn that's basically be ground down into like a mashed potato consistency, basically. And
I'll
then
have to Google it and see what it looks
yeah,
like.
and then a potjie. I think a South African potjie you can't go by. That's basically, I don't know if you've heard of a potjie, but they put a big cast iron pot on a fire, and they basically layer it to make like a really wholesome stew. That sounds terrible because stews aren't always that great, but it is. If you have a real South African make it'll be divine. And I think when you're in South Africa, you have to braai. Everybody braais here. I mean, I even have friends who made it their lockdown mission to braai every day of lockdown. I mean, we had a braai yesterday, and it is a regular thing for South Africans. We do braai often.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for chatting. This was super fun to hear and learn about you and South Africa. So thank you for your willingness to chat for a few minutes and share. It's been wonderful.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
we'll have to stay in touch perhaps through Instagram or something, one way or another.
Yeah, and one day when you come here, then I'll be able
You'll
to
be the person who can guide me.
Yes. Or if you're in another city, then I can find another person
Wonderful.
who I know.
Awesome. Well,
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.